They say inheritance reveals the truth about a family. For me, it revealed betrayal, humiliation, and a secret so powerful it rewrote everything I thought I knew about my life. When the lawyer read my grandfather's will, my brother Michael walked out with a mansion worth over $1 million. And me, I got a run-down farm in Tennessee, land so worthless even the neighbors laughed about it. And as if that wasn't enough, my wife Emily looked me dead in the eye and said, Emily, angry, disgusted, "A farm? Dirt? That's all you've got to offer me, Daniel? You're pathetic." She left that night. But here's the twist. That farm wasn't worthless, because buried beneath the soil was a secret my grandfather had hidden for decades. A secret that would turn me from the family failure into the one man they could never control. Before I explain how a crumbling farm changed my life, you need to understand why this inheritance cut so deep. My brother Michael and I grew up under the same roof, but in two different worlds. He was the golden child, tall, athletic, handsome, the kind of kid who could do no wrong. I was the shadow, the quiet one, the one who had to fight for every ounce of recognition. At my 10th birthday party, I remember blowing out candles while Michael played the star of the show. He hadn't even done anything. It was just that all eyes naturally drifted toward him. My father clapped him on the back and said, "One day you'll lead this family." I looked down at my slice of cake, pretending not to hear. When I won the science fair in high school, I brought home my blue ribbon, heart pounding with pride. I handed it to Dad, waiting for that spark of approval. Instead, he glanced at it for a half-second and then said, "That's nice, son, but did you see your brother's game-winning touchdown last night?" The ribbon ended up stuffed in a drawer. Michael's football photo went on the wall. Even Grandpa Henry, the man who owned the Tennessee farm, seemed closer to Michael, or at least that's what I believed. He taught Michael how to ride horses, while I watched from the fence. He took Michael fishing, while I stayed home with Mom. It felt like my whole childhood was one long reminder. Michael was the star, and I was the supporting role. But Grandpa, he was different in subtle ways, quiet ways. Once, when I was 13, I wandered into his barn when he was fixing a tractor. My hands shook as I picked up a wrench, offering to help. He didn't laugh, he didn't brush me aside. He just handed me the wrench and said, "Grandpa Henry, gruff but kind. Every man's got his place, Danny. Don't ever think yours doesn't matter." Those words stuck with me, but back then they felt like crumbs, kind words without weight. Because in the grand scheme of things, Michael always won. By the time Grandpa passed away, I assumed the pattern would continue. Michael would inherit the legacy. I'd get something symbolic. But I never expected the humiliation I was about to face. The day of the will reading was the day my entire world collapsed, and unknowingly, the day my new life began. Because while my brother smirked with his $1 million mansion and my wife spat venom in my face, I had no idea that the worthless farm I'd been handed was hiding something greater than all of them put together. The lawyer's office was suffocating. Polished oak shelves lined with dusty law books, a long conference table that seemed to stretch forever, and around it sat my family, the people I should have trusted most, yet the people who had always made me feel small. Michael leaned back in his chair, smug as ever, flashing his movie star smile at the relatives who whispered in admiration. He didn't need to hear the will. He already knew he was walking away with everything. I sat quietly, hands clenched, heart pounding. Emily sat beside me, scrolling through her phone, looking more bored than nervous. Her silence said it all. She expected Michael to win, and she expected me to lose. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Let's begin." The words echoed in my skull as if they were meant to pierce me. Lawyer reading, "To my grandson, Michael Callahan, I leave the San Diego estate, valued at approximately $1.5 million. The room erupted in polite applause. Relatives murmured their approval. Of course, Michael deserves it. Michael smirked at me like he'd been crowned king. Emily's face lit up, not for me, but for the vision of luxury Michael had just inherited. She leaned close to me and whispered with venom wrapped in honey. "Emily, see, that's what success looks like. That's what your brother can give a woman." I swallowed the lump in my throat, waiting for my turn. The lawyer shuffled the papers. His voice didn't change, but the words landed like a hammer on my chest. "Lawyer, and to Daniel Callahan, I leave the Tennessee farm." Silence. A beat. Then a few chuckles from cousins at the back of the room. Michael laughed under his breath. "A farm? In the middle of nowhere? That's charity, not inheritance." I forced a smile, though every muscle in my body trembled. Emily turned to me, eyes wide with disgust. Emily, whispering harshly, "Are you kidding me? A farm? Dirt? This is what your life amounts to? This is what you dragged me into?" She stood up abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. The whole room turned to look as she grabbed her purse and stormed out. The whispers spread like wildfire. Relative 1, "Can you believe it? Michael gets the mansion, Daniel gets land?" Relative 2, "Maybe Henry thought Daniel was better off with animals than people." Each comment cut deeper. My father's cold stare across the table finished the job. "Dad," quiet but sharp, "your grandfather knew what he was doing. Michael is the future of this family. You, well, someone has to take care of the leftovers." My fists clenched under the table. I wanted to scream, to flip that polished wood surface and walk out. But all I could do was sit there, humiliated, watching the empire crown my brother king while I was handed scraps. As the lawyer wrapped up,
Michael shook hands, posed for photos, and basked in the glow of praise. I left quietly, alone, the sound of laughter chasing me out the door. That night, Emily's side of the closet was empty. Her words replayed in my head like poison. "You're pathetic." I thought Grandpa had cursed me, but I had no idea. He'd given me the one thing that would rewrite everything. That night, I opened the bedroom door to silence. Emily's perfume still lingered in the air, but her side of the closet was bare. The drawers were empty. The picture frames on her nightstand were gone. She hadn't just left. She had erased herself. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the indent in the mattress where she used to sleep. My chest felt hollow, my hands numb. It wasn't just my wife walking out. It was every failure I'd ever carried crashing down at once. The forgotten son, the worthless husband, the man who couldn't measure up. On the dresser, she had left one thing behind: her wedding ring. Not in its box, not carefully placed, just tossed on the wood like spare change. In the days that followed, Emily came back, not to reconcile, but to lash out. She stormed into the apartment to collect the rest of her things, venom dripping from every word. Emily, furious, "You tricked me. I thought I was marrying into wealth, a family with money. Instead, I got you, a man with dirt under his nails and nothing to his name." I tried to speak, but she cut me off. Emily, sneering, "Michael's wife will be sipping champagne in San Diego. Me? I'd be stuck in Tennessee on a rotting farm. No, thank you." Her words were knives, each one deeper than the last. Me, quietly, almost pleading, "Emily, it's not about the money. It's about us, about sticking together." Emily, laughing bitterly, "There is no us, Daniel. Not anymore." She slammed the door behind her, and this time she didn't come back.
The apartment was silent. Too silent. I stopped answering calls. Friends texted, but I ignored them. Work emails piled up until my boss stopped reaching out altogether. Even my family didn't bother. Why would they? Michael was their shining star. Nights bled into mornings. I barely ate. I sat in the dark, replaying every insult, every laugh at my expense. Emily's voice haunted me. Pathetic, worthless, a failure. I drank to numb the ache, but the silence always screamed louder. One evening, I found myself standing in front of the bathroom mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes bloodshot, a beard unshaven, a man unrecognizable. For a moment, I thought, maybe Emily was right. Maybe they all were. Maybe this is all I'll ever be. But then I saw something else. Grandpa Henry's face, not literally, but in memory. His wrinkled smile, his rough hands handing me that wrench years ago. His words echoed, "Every man's got his place, Danny. Don't ever think yours doesn't matter." I clenched my fists, slammed the faucet shut, and whispered to myself, If all I have left is that farm, then I'll see what's there. I'll face it. The next morning, I packed a bag, threw it into the trunk of my beat-up car, and started driving south. The city skyline faded behind me. Mile after mile of highway stretched ahead, and with every passing mile, the weight of humiliation started to lift. I didn't know what waited for me in Tennessee, but deep down, I sensed something. That farm wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. I thought I was driving to the middle of nowhere, but what I was really driving toward was the truth my grandfather had been guarding all along. The highway stretched endlessly in front of me. Mile after mile of cracked asphalt. Gas stations and fast food signs blurred past. The farther I drove, the quieter it became. No honking cars, no city lights, just empty fields rolling toward the horizon. At first, the silence was heavy, like a reminder of everything I'd lost. Emily's face flashed in my mind, her words echoing, "You're pathetic." But with each mile, that voice grew fainter. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my thoughts shifting. Maybe this wasn't a curse. Maybe this was a chance. Still, when the GPS finally announced, "You have arrived at your destination," I wasn't ready for what I saw. The Tennessee farm wasn't just old. It looked abandoned by time itself. The paint on the farmhouse peeled in long strips, exposing gray wood beneath. The barn leaned like it was tired of standing. Fences sagged into the dirt. Weeds choked the driveway. I stepped out of the car, gravel crunching under my boots. The air smelled different here. Thick with earth, hay, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers carried on the breeze. I walked slowly, running my hand across the weathered wood of the barn. This was my inheritance. This was what my family laughed at. This was what Emily left me over. And for a moment, I believed them. Maybe they were right. Maybe this really is worthless. But then a voice cut through the silence. "Afternoon, stranger." I spun around to see an older man in dusty overalls and a sun-bleached cap. He carried himself with ease, like someone who'd spent his life under open skies. "You must be Daniel, Henry's grandson." "Yeah. Who are you?" "Name's Larry. Worked this land with your granddad for years. Helped him survey it a time or two." Larry's handshake was firm, his eyes sharp despite the wrinkles around them. "He always said you'd come back here one day. Said the farm wasn't finished with you." The words sent a chill through me. Larry walked me around the property, pointing out old fence lines, forgotten wells, and patches of soil that looked darker than the rest. As we reached the edge of a field, he stopped, leaning on his cane. "Your granddad, he was a stubborn man. People tried to buy this land off him more times than I can count. Developers, companies, they all wanted it. But Henry wouldn't sell. Not for any price." "Why not? This place looks like it's falling apart." "Because he knew something the rest of us didn't. Said this land had secrets." My stomach tightened. Secrets? It sounded ridiculous, like something out of a fairy tale. But the way Larry's eyes lingered told me he wasn't joking. He reached into his bag and pulled out an envelope, weathered with age. "Your granddad told me to hold on to this. Said to give it to you if you ever showed up here." I took it with trembling hands. The paper was yellowing, the edges brittle. My name was scrawled across the front in Grandpa Henry's handwriting. I slid a finger under the flap, heart pounding. Inside was a folded soil report, lines of numbers and markings I didn't understand at first glance. But as I read, my eyes widened, my pulse quickened. This wasn't just dirt. This wasn't just farmland. Something was buried here. Something worth more than any mansion in San Diego. And when I realized what Grandpa had left me, my life flipped upside down. I unfolded the report, my eyes scanning lines of technical jargon. At first, it looked meaningless. Columns of figures, chemical symbols, maps dotted with X's. Larry leaned closer, tapping a section with his calloused hand. "See here? That ain't just any soil. That's rare earth mineral concentration. Your granddad had this tested years ago." I blinked, still not processing. "Minerals? What are you saying?" "I'm saying, Daniel, what's under this farm ain't worthless. It's worth more than you can imagine." Larry explained slowly, his voice steady. "Rare earth minerals, the kind used in high-tech industries, smartphones, electric cars, defense systems. The world ran on this stuff, and it was in short supply. And right here, beneath my boots, lay deposits big enough to change a man's life forever." My chest tightened. I looked out across the fields, dry grass swaying in the wind, sunlight glinting off broken fence posts. Suddenly, the land didn't look dead. It looked alive. All my life, I thought I was handed scraps, but Grandpa hadn't cursed me with dirt. He'd trusted me with treasure. At first, I didn't want to believe it. It sounded too good, too unreal. After all, hadn't my whole life been a string of disappointments? I drove into town, report in hand, and showed it to the county office. A geologist there raised his eyebrows as he read, then whistled low. If this date is accurate, son, you're sitting on a fortune. I pressed for confirmation, and within a week, the state sent specialists. They drilled samples, tested the soil, and confirmed it. The farm wasn't just land. It was a gold mine in disguise. When the results came back, I sat in my car, paper trembling in my hands. My throat tightened. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the forgotten son. I felt chosen. Back at the farmhouse, I searched through drawers and found an old leather journal, worn and cracked. Inside were notes scrawled by Grandpa Henry. He wrote about turning down offers from corporations, about protecting the land until the time was right, about me. Grandpa's journal. Michael was always meant for the spotlight, but Daniel has the patience, the grit. He sees worth where others don't. That's why the farm belongs to him. I clutched the journal, tears rolling down my cheeks. Grandpa hadn't overlooked me. He had believed in me more than anyone else ever had. Standing in the middle of that field, wind whipping through my hair, I whispered to the sky. Me. Thank you, Grandpa. I won't waste this. I won't let them laugh at me ever again. The farm wasn't a curse. It wasn't a burden. It was my chance, my redemption, my legacy. But little did I know, the news wouldn't stay quiet for long. And soon, the very people who abandoned me would come crawling back. First came my parents, then my brother, and finally, Emily. They all wanted a piece of the fortune. But by then, I wasn't the same man they had thrown away.
He hadn't called. He hadn't checked on me, not once. Yet here he was, standing on my porch like nothing had happened. Dad, smiling too wide. Son, there you are. I always knew you had potential. I told your mother we should have supported you more. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. His words rang hollow, dripping with the kind of fake warmth only desperation creates. Me, flatly. Funny, I don't remember you saying that when Michael got the mansion. His smile faltered. Dad, quickly. That was a mistake. But this, Daniel, this is different. You're the future of this family now, and your mother and I, well, we'd love to help manage this blessing. I let the silence stretch, then finally said, me, cold. This blessing doesn't need managing, and it sure doesn't need you. I closed the door in his face. The next visitor, my golden boy brother. He strolled onto the farm like he owned it, still wearing that smug smile, though this time it didn't reach his eyes. Michael, trying to sound casual. Hey, little brother, heard you've been busy. Looks like the old man left you more than just weeds after all, huh? I didn't respond. He continued, shifting uncomfortably. Michael, listen, I've got connections, investors. I can help you make this big. You don't have to handle it alone. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Me. You mean the way you handled the San Diego mansion? The way you handled every chance I never got? Michael stiffened. Michael, pleading now. Come on, Daniel. We're family. Don't shut me out. But family doesn't walk away when you're at your lowest. Family doesn't laugh when you're humiliated. I turned my back on him, leaving his words to die in the wind. But the hardest knock came last. Emily. She arrived dressed to perfection, makeup flawless, smile rehearsed, but her eyes betrayed the desperation beneath. Emily, softly, "Daniel, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have left. I was scared. But I see now. We belong together. We can start over. You and me." Her voice cracked, just enough to sound believable. I stared at her, memories flashing, her laughter at my humiliation, the empty closet, the wedding ring tossed like trash. Me, low, steady. "You were right, Emily. I was pathetic back then, but not anymore. And you're not part of this story anymore." Her face crumbled, and for once she had no words. She turned and walked away, this time for good.
As I watched her car disappear down the dusty road, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. No more chains of humiliation, no more ghosts of betrayal. Just me and the legacy Grandpa had trusted me with. But the journey wasn't over, because this farm wasn't just about money. It was about purpose. It was about building something lasting. The days that followed were the busiest of my life. Contracts poured in, companies lined up with offers, but I didn't rush. I didn't sell out. Instead, I took my time, just like Grandpa had taught me. I hired local workers, repaired the fences, painted the farmhouse. I poured money into the community, into people who had believed in me when my own family hadn't. Every hammer strike, every seed planted, every handshake felt like rewriting the story of who I was. One evening I sat on the porch with Larry. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold. Crickets sang in the tall grass. Larry lit his pipe and said quietly, "Your granddad would be proud, Daniel. He always said this farm wasn't just land. It was a test, a chance for you to see your own worth." I looked out at the fields, no longer broken, but thriving, and for the first time I didn't see failure. I saw legacy. I whispered to the breeze, "Thank you, Grandpa, for believing in me when no one else did." The best part wasn't the money. It wasn't the attention or the headlines calling me the lucky heir. The best part was shutting the door on Michael, on my parents, on Emily, on everyone who laughed at me when I had nothing. Because the real wealth wasn't under the soil. It was in finally knowing my worth. As the stars blinked awake in the Tennessee sky, I leaned back on the porch, the journal resting on my lap. I thought about the man I had been, broken, humiliated, forgotten, and the man I had become, steady, unshaken, alive. Sometimes what looks worthless is the very thing that saves you. My wife left, my family betrayed me, and my world crumbled. But my grandfather knew the truth all along, that from the dust you can rise, and in the soil you can find not just treasure, but yourself. If this story spoke to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters.